Good morning, YouTube! Welcome. This is Crypto Stew. Or if you're one of my unbelievable 15 subscribers, I guess what I should be saying is welcome back. I wanted to make a quick video tonight about Bitcoin. I've been meaning to make this video for 2 weeks, and I'm sorry that I'm making it now because Bitcoin's had a very good couple of days, and it looks like I'm just making a video because it's doing well now, even though it's still doing terribly compared to what it was. But that's not the case. I wanted to make this video 2 weeks ago when Bitcoin was in the toilet, so the fact that it's up a little bit now doesn't matter. So what do I have to say about Bitcoin? I guess I believe the future is very bright for Bitcoin. Not as bright as other Bitcoin enthusiasts think. There are guys out there, actually there's especially among the YouTubers and among the cryptoverse, and who believe that Bitcoin will be the world's currency in the future. There was one occurrence this week in the news that lends some credence to that. Paraguay and Argentina, one of them sold something. What was it? Like poison that kills insects. I forget what you call it. Pesticide. One of them sold pesticides to the other, and they paid for the pesticide in Bitcoin. Now, the recipient immediately converted the Bitcoin into their own currency the second they got it, but it worked. I'm sure they saved God knows how much money and time and red tape by just using Bitcoin instead of going through whatever hellish process they went through before to have cross-country transactions. And that's the role that Ripple's trying to fill. And if they had used Ripple instead, they would have found that the transaction would have been even cheaper and faster. And I'm not a Ripple fan, but I'm just saying that's what XRP is trying to do. But they're trying to do it with banks, not necessarily countries. But yes, I believe Bitcoin's future is bright. I just don't believe it's ever going to be the world's currency. Now, the people who believe it's going to be the world's currency, what they believe is that the dollar will collapse, the euro will collapse, all these fiat currencies will collapse, and all that will remain is Bitcoin, and it's a currency without a country, so you can use it worldwide, and that's what the world has been needing. You can't have a world currency that's issued by a country. It has to be issued by basically no one, which is what you have in Bitcoin. Now, that part is true. The part that makes Bitcoin impossible to become the world's currency is that it is deflationary in its nature. And I know that some people who love Bitcoin love that it's deflationary in its nature, but that's what makes it incapable of ever being a real currency. It can be a store of value, it can be the digital gold of the world, that it could be, but it will never become what you use to buy milk. Why? Why can't you have a deflationary currency? You can't have a deflationary currency because it motivates people to not spend it. People have a built-in motivation not to spend their money because if they just hold on to it longer, it will buy more things after they hold on to it. You don't buy a TV this year, you buy it next year, and you can get a better TV because Bitcoin has gone up in value, and also, that's also true now because TVs keep getting cheaper, but I guess TVs aren't a good example. You have to imagine something that isn't getting cheaper over time. I guess cars are getting more expensive. But your car would actually get cheaper every year if your currency was actually going up in value. And then what does that do? It creates a death spiral of sorts. People sit on their money, so the stores start to struggle. They can't sell their products. The stores struggle. They can't sell their products. They have to start laying off their employees. Their employees are laid off. They don't have money to spend things. That means there's even less people to shop at the stores, and so on and so on. That's what happens when you have a deflationary currency. The inflation itself, I know everybody, especially everybody in crypto, hates inflation, but some inflation is actually necessary. You need motivation to invest your money. You need motivation not to keep your money under your mattress. Why don't we keep large amounts of cash under our mattress other than the obvious reasons of fire and theft? Why? Because that money goes down in value every year. Right now, inflation is very reasonable. It's only about 2%. Inflation has been as bad as in the teens, I think, during the late 70s. So any currency that's going to become the world's currency has to be inflationary to some extent. Usually 1 to 2 to 3, anywhere 5% and below, but it has to be somewhat inflationary. A deflationary currency simply cannot become the world's currency. I do believe Bitcoin can actually become a store value like gold is. I used to not believe that, but I am starting to. The more I'm around it, the more I'm around crypto. Um, and the more, there was a story. Did you know that the Federal Reserve, which is the largest gold storage in the world, has significantly less gold in it than it did 10 years ago? Why? Countries have been pulling their gold reserves out of the Federal Reserve because they say they're doing it to hedge in case of a collapse of the United States. They think that if the United States were to have some kind of crisis, they wouldn't be able to get their gold out of the Federal Reserve. So they're not keeping as much of it there. Because if you ever saw Die Hard 3, you know that all these various countries keep their gold reserves in the Federal Reserve right there in New York City. But they're keeping less of it than they used to. I just thought that was interesting. There definitely is a problem with the dollar. There definitely is a problem with the euro, and those things will favor Bitcoin, but Bitcoin will not replace those things. It can't. Can some other cryptocurrency? Maybe. So I really wanted. Nobody talks about that, so I just really wanted to get that out there. That's the whole point of my channel, is to get content out there that other people aren't talking about. I should say that Bitcoin in general right now, one of its main obstacles is that it meets resistance from regular people. Anyone I own an export business. And when I tell my customers, I always tell them the various ways that they can pay me. And if I mention Bitcoin and they're a first-time customer, they immediately think twice about doing business with me. They think that my business is somehow nefarious because I'm willing to do business in Bitcoin. They think it's only for terrorists and drug dealers. And that's just, what's terrible is that's exactly what they thought about the internet when the internet came out. In the early 90s, the internet's main function was porn. And that's what people thought. Oh, the internet, that's just for porn. I'll never use my credit card on the internet. You would have to be crazy. It's full of criminals. Well, everyone uses their credit card on the internet now. I mean, and I really see so many parallels between the internet back when it started and cryptocurrencies now. And I believe that this is a technology that's in its infancy, and that's only going to get stronger over time. Now, am I saying that Bitcoin is going to have another bull run like it did? No, probably not. I think what we could be in for, and this is what I would much prefer over another bull run, is slow, steady growth. 5-10% a year, maybe even some years 15%. Slow and steady, just gaining ground, gaining adoption. You're seeing more and more Bitcoin ATMs pop up, and they're all popping up in bad neighborhoods. You know why? Because there are no banks in bad neighborhoods. There are no banks in the ghetto. So what do these people in the ghetto have to do? They have to keep all their money in cash, and they live in bad neighborhoods. They don't want to keep their money in cash. Bitcoin gives them a legitimate option. They can have their money on a ledger wallet instead of having it under their pillow, and worrying about it getting robbed while they're at work. So, yeah, you're seeing real reasons for people to have Bitcoin now. Those things are only going to grow. You're seeing cryptocurrencies get used more and more in countries like Venezuela, where they're having crises of their currency. Every year, adoption will be coming more and more. I do not believe we'll get a Bitcoin ETF this year. I believe that when we do get a Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin will go up a lot more than people are predicting. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people like me who have IRAs and 401ks, and they own some Bitcoin, but if they could own Bitcoin with their IRA, would they dump all of it in there? No, but you better believe that they would put maybe 5 or 10% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. Yeah, they would, because it has tremendous potential. It's risky. That's why you only put 5 or 10% of your portfolio. But it's a lot of people putting 5 or 10% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. That's a lot of Bitcoin. Bitcoin would, I hate to use the phrase skyrocket, but if a Bitcoin, when, I believe eventually a Bitcoin ETF will happen. I don't think it'll be this year, but when it happens, Bitcoin will go up quite a bit. So I think that's it. I do want to talk more. I mean, I'm getting near my limit. I don't like making videos more than 10 minutes long. So I do want to talk more about the future of cryptocurrency in general. But as for Bitcoin, I believe it will be a store of value for the foreseeable future. Now, it may go down in the short term. I don't know if Bitcoin is headed to 2,500 or 1,500, but if you believe that in 10 years it's going to be 250,000 a Bitcoin, that doesn't matter. You're still getting and I'm not telling anyone to buy Bitcoin. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm buying Bitcoin. Because if you believe that Bitcoin is going to be $250,000 in 10 years, it doesn't matter if you bought it at 3,000 or if you bought it at 1,500. Obviously, it's better to buy it at 1,500, but I don't know that it's going to go there. I know where it is now, and I like the price in relation to its utility, in relation to the number of people in the world who are going to need it. Think about all the unbanked people in India, and I understand India is very anti-cryptocurrency, but I don't, and all the unbanked people in China and all these places that just have tons of people. There's and all the unbanked people in Africa. Jesus. There's tons of people out there who have a legitimate use for Bitcoin. And as it becomes more and more acceptable, as the stigma goes away, just like it did with the internet, its value will grow and grow. That is my opinion. So that is why I am buying Bitcoin. And if it keeps going down, I'm going to keep buying it. I don't buy with money I can't afford to lose, but I very much believe in it. So I'll do another video probably next week or whenever on some other cryptos that on the future of crypto in general, not necessarily Bitcoin. But that's all I really wanted to get out for this video. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. Click like. I don't really need you to share the video, but if you're hearing me for the first time and you're digging what I'm throwing out there, feel free to join my 15 subscribers and become another member of the Crypto Stew family. All right, well, until next time, this is Crypto Stew, signing off.